This summer, staff have been working
Good
hard
evening and welcome
polishing our
to
gym to prepare our buildings and grounds for students in the fall. Our grounds are looking better than ever, and I am excited for our students to experience them.
Good evening and welcome to the August 5th Mount Vernon City School District Board of Education work session. May you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Trustee Brown. Present. Trustee Kelly. Trustee McDonough.
Present.
Trustee Middleton.
Present.
Trustee Peterson.
Present.
Trustee Scott.
Present.
Trustee White. VP Mitchell. And President Maribel.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
We will begin with a presentation from Transportation by Mr. Larry Lee Fiber. Dr. Strickland, would you like to introduce him?
So, good evening, community and trustees, President Marble. Just to let you know, this work session, we are focusing on upgrades to our transportation system, as well as giving you a preview of the special education services in the Mount Vernon City School District. There's a lot of progress that has been made, and there is a lot of progress that still needs to be made. I would just continue to ask that you just write down your questions and address them to me, and then I will be sure to, if we don't have the response this evening, within 48 hours, get you a response that you would hopefully understand. Thank you.
If you do not have Dr. Strickland's email, at the end of the meeting, we will post the email for Dr. Strickland, as well as an email address that will get to every single solitary school board member, trustee, as well as the district clerk. So you will have that at the end of the session. There will be a slide for that. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I haven't met most of you, and I'm happy to be here because I've had an opportunity over the past few months to learn some stuff about Mount Vernon and their transportation operations. And so that's why I'm here, because I want to talk to you guys about it and answer any questions that I can. And so here we go. This was like a 50,000-foot view flying over Mount Vernon, which is the cluster of blue in the center. And I've thought that, I still do, that Mount Vernon is where it's at. It's beautiful Westchester County. It's so close to New York City. I mean, it's a really cool place to be on Earth, you know? But when you zoom in on it, get lower in that plane, you can start to see the distribution. Those dots are the students. As they call it geocoded. They have X and Y coordinates where they live. And they're all the heck over the place. Over 7,000 students are attending the public schools, right? The private schools, the special ed institutions, the parochial. They're pretty evenly and pretty densely distributed throughout the district. And we've got the neighbors, the Yonks, the Bronx, the Bronxville. We got Tuckahoe, Pelham. Pretty cool. We're even connected by one little point with New Rochelle. You guys probably know that. These are our neighbors, and they can be helpful, and we can cooperate with them in terms of transportation opportunities. And so that's why right away I want to know who's our neighbor, you know, when it comes to busing. So the 16 Mount Vernon schools of this past year have been reduced to 13 schools for 25-26. And so Leader, Honor, Parker, they're now a part of our history curriculum at Mount Vernon. But the public school students largely rely upon public transportation to get to school, or they walk, or they catch a ride with family or friends. But it's the IEPs of the special education students that sometimes designate special transportation needs. And that's where the transportation show really goes here. And a previous speaker was talking about the cost of special education students being, I think she said it was like $30,000. Was that right? Which is a lot. And you know what? New York State spends more educating its students than any other state. And guess what? They also spend more than any other state in transporting their students, which is something that I've strived to improve in the districts that I've served. And it's what I aim to do here, serving you. So the transportation costs, though, are enormous, just like the $30,000 education costs for students. I wouldn't be surprised if our costs approach $20,000 just to transport them. You know what I mean? And there are states that it costs less than $20,000 to educate the students. Forget about transporting them, you know? So it's something where it begs attention, you know? And so that's what I'm trying to do. Now, when we look at the district, this is last year, guys. So the 12 elementary schools, scattered the students are, but in clusters, as you can clearly see that there are geographic regions that fairly nicely define each school's attendance boundary. And so we've got the colors grouped. However, if we filter out the gen ed students, you can see that the colors are just dispersed all across the map. And that's because the students that attend the programs, the special education programs at our district, are not necessarily strategically placed. They haven't been in the past. And so one big hope is that this year, and maybe in future years, that more focus could be taken on that effort so that the programs that are serving the students might be able to be more closely related to the geographic distribution of the students that need them. But that's tough to do. It's easier to say than to do, that's for sure. But it took 600 special ed students. It took over 78 buses, guys, to get that job done. And it doesn't take too much math work to realize that's less than 8 kids a bus, you know? And the buses, by the way, have at least a capacity for 16 students. And so it's like, uh-oh, we've got room to improve there, you know? And so that's immediately where my attention went. Just looking at the routes, though, guys, and I know it's not something that you do, but these dots that are on the map now are the bus stops for given trips. The trips are color-coded, and this is 5 elementary routes for BTA, which is one of the elementary schools. And you can see that the students are all over the district, of course, going to BTA. And there's a little bit of overlap of the routes, but they're not completely scattered either. And if we look at another school, Denzel, we had 5 elementary trips for that school. And there was some overlapping too But the students were, again, coming from all over the district to go to Denzel, which is the little pink building in the middle. And Parker, it was the same thing. Parker's lower on this map, towards the bottom south part of the district. But the 6 trips that went to Parker were sometimes nicely grouped, but there was some overlapping as well. And so Mount Vernon needs money. Nobody's surprised to hear that. And a plan was formed, like we just talked about, to close 3 of the schools, of the 16 schools, and the remaining 13 schools to redistrict those student assignments. And that has been done. Mount Vernon arranges transportation, as we talked about, only for the special ed students. So the gen ed students take public transportation and other means to get to school. But I was called late last school year to see if I could help reduce costs. So that's why I'm here. And by rerouting with a focus on efficiency, guys, and then by testing the rerouting, we did find savings. I mean, it was justified, and we actually implemented them for the high school. Now, it was late in the year, so everyone's got their stops. Families all have their work plans scheduled, you know what I mean, to accommodate their students' pick up and drop off times in the morning and afternoon. And so, even though there were savings that were found in many schools by reevaluating the routes, we had a chance to implement them with the high school and to make sure that it wasn't just smoke and mirrors kind of thing. Like, no, there were savings, and we enjoyed them for the last couple months for at least one school. So I know that there are efficiencies that we can enjoy. And so what? While we were rerouting, last year, the programs were being strategically redistricted, and a new approach was employed to try to restrict busing only to the special ed students who had a physical or mental need, for transportation, not just a globally assigned transportation for all special ed students, because many of them are fully capable of managing with other transportation arrangements and even walking to school. And so we wanted to at least explore those possibilities. And so what was talked about was a 1.5 mile, kind of like a walk zone around each school. Now, New York State has a law, and they say if you're an elementary student and you live more than 2 miles from school, you need a bus. It's a district's obligation. And it's the same thing for high school. If you're in high school and you live more than 3 miles from school, you get a bus. And that sounds pretty reasonable, but we wanted to hedge that direction, but not quite so harshly, because walking 3 miles is kind of rough, But what was talked about was 1.5 miles. And it seemed like it was a plausible thing, definitely less than the state law mandate. But could we at least talk about walk possibilities for some students? I don't know. Hey, it's up to you. So the transportation saving stage, I believe, has been set. 3 things. 1, the thoughtful geographic repositioning of special ed programs in specific schools. That's number 1. Number 2 is implementing potential walk zones, and another strategy, which would be group stops that I'm going to talk about right now. And number 3, that we do the routing instead of the bus contractors. Because in the past, it's our bus contractors that have designed the routes. And nothing against those guys. They've been awesome at serving the Mount Vernon students, I think, in looking at the history of it. It's just that they may not share our need to save money by reducing the number of buses that we're using, guys. And so with me focused on that, maybe it will help us for our routing costs, because it really comes down to how many buses, you know? That's the price of it. So we've got the triple threat poised to rock for 25, 26, and we're doing our best to turn it into a home run. But some of the special ed program placement decisions are still being finalized. But we need that information as soon as we can so we can make informed routing decisions that we can then share with the bus contractors, and then they can do dry runs, they call it, with no kids, but to test it and make sure that they're doable, you know, and then assign them to drivers and all of that kind of stuff. And we've got to send out notifications to the parents and the families and all of that kind of stuff. But this is a first go round for us, because in the past, the contractors have done the routes. So now we want a chance to try to do it. And of course, we can always change the routes after the year starts, but I would hate to do that because, again, these families make arrangements. You know, they're counting on transportation being there at a certain time in the morning and the afternoon. And so it's harsh when we change those kinds of plans mid-year. You know what I mean? So we want to avoid that, if at all possible, by doing it now. So that's our hope. And those placements are being formalized in Infinite Campus, the student information system. And we're getting our data in transportation from Infinite Campus, which should make sense because the registration processes are complete and we know that students are legitimate, you know what I mean, and deserving of our services. And then we want to be able to share, of course, with the school staff all of the transportation arrangements so they know what bus to take little Billy to at the end of the school day, for crying out loud, because it's kind of confusing, you know? There's just all those buses. We want to be able to communicate with those guys. So that's what we're faced with and looking forward with enthusiasm to do right now. But bus stop consolidation is something that I did want to mention briefly, and that is considering corner stops and group stops. Instead of traditionally what's happened is it's been door-to-doorville, you know? And that takes more time, and in effect, it takes more money. And you know why? Because we have to stop at each house, and we go slower to get the route done, and therefore we're compelled to, after a certain amount of time, just get the heck to school, even though the bus isn't loaded quite full. You know, because how long do we want students to be on buses? Of course we don't. So we want to keep that manageable if we possibly can. And so by carefully considering the implementation or group or corner stops as opposed to the door-to-doors, it would lead to safer routes. And I know that strikes people wrong sometimes to hear that. They say, no, the safest place for my kid's bus stop is at my house, my driveway, you know? And it makes sense to think about that. But the truth is that the national statistics are very clear. The most dangerous thing any school bus does is make a bus stop. That's when tragedies happen. It's not when the bus is cruising down the road. And so, the fewer stops, statistically, the safer the trips are, guys. And so, I would love it if we would consider something about that. Of course, it's going to give greater efficiencies, greener solutions, shorter ride times, and that's the thing. If we have shorter ride times, then we have more time to make a couple more stops and fill the bus, you know? And that would lead to efficiencies, guys. So that's where the money's at, really. It's about more fully loading the buses. All right? Well, I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, sure. Here's an example. It's like two houses. These purple bus stops are by the little purple dots, which are the kids. And you can see how the path of the bus has to go down purple lane 1, take a right, take a left, get the heck out of Dodge. Whereas if we, instead of making those two bus stops at the houses, we saw this, which is one bus stop, where the kids, one student up top has to walk, what, past 2 or 3 houses? And the one at the bottom maybe has to cross 3 or 4? But this is an example where neither student has to walk even a tenth of a mile. And it'll make the bus route clearly shorter. It just has to go down and bang a left. And so that'll save time. And I think that's one example. Here's another one. We're stopping 9 stops all over the place, door to door, door to door. We're going up and down every darn street. Well, maybe we could consider something more like this, where we're just making 5 bus stops instead of 9. And then we're making it so much faster and cutting right across, less turns, safer routing. I think it's something that we should consider, guys. It could really help. And here's just another example. It's 4 bus stops. The bus is going loop-de-loop-de pants all over the place. And here is the same set of students with just 2 bus stops and getting in and out of Dodge. And so I hope those examples help you to understand what I'm talking about. And I don't know what I was doing with this slide, a bunch of numbers and stuff. It makes me seem like I know what I'm talking about, but actually it really does. There's a before and an after column here, guys. Forgive me for this slide. Didn't really come together as I wish, but it does show that, like with Graham, for example, and with Grimes and Hamilton, by looking at the routes last year, I was able to reduce them. And we didn't implement them. So we didn't get the money on it because it was towards the end of the year, like I said, and everything. But I know that we can do better with these routes. I have done it. And I look forward to doing it for 25, 26, and hope that the impact can be as minimal as possible financially. Does that make sense? Do you have? It does make sense. All right, good. Well, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
I
Trustee
have a
Kelly?
question. When would this dry run be? Like, we have like less than a month for school to start. So when would the dry run happen? And how long before parents are notified once these runs are done?
Double bingo. Within 2 weeks of the start of school for both of those. If you send parent notifications too early, then it's the kind of thing that gets lost in the shuffle. It's in the mail, oh, I can't find it. You know what I mean? But if you keep it within a couple weeks of the start of school, that's like a rocking time to hit people with this information. And it's a perfect time for drivers so that they're not doing a dry run a month before school starts. It's like they forgot where the heck they're going, you know. So it's definitely double-sided right there.
And I want to know, how many blocks is 1.5 miles?
Right, exactly. That's a great point because, as you know, that some of the blocks, the way they're shaped, it's long, skinny suckers, you know what I mean? And so there is no answer to that question, although I love it. I wish I could answer it. It's exactly 8.2, you know, but I don't know.
Because I think that some of the concerns, I think for some of the parents, it's nice when it's warm and sunny. It's inclement weather that I'm considering. And it's not that I'm saying that this is not a great plan. I'm just want to weigh the pros and cons.
Absolutely, and that's legitimate. And so the examples that I was showing for, you know, were just like if we keep it to a tenth or 2/10 or some small mileage, guys, that you could envision it with respect to your own block. You know, it's like a tenth of a mile for that side. And so if we could keep it reasonable in those regards, and also reasonable with respect to knowing that these students are ambulatory. They're walking around these schools and they're putting some serious mileage on their own treads, you know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily that they need to have door-to-door accommodations in every instance. And I think it pays for us to consider that.
Dr. Strickland would like to respond, and then Trustee McDonough.
So, Trustee Kelly, to also answer your question, one of the things that actually tends to hold up school districts is the lack of accurate information in the student information system. So, a lot of times, families may have moved over the summer. They've are housing with someone else now, and then the information is not updated at the school or at the district office. So I actually wanted to use this as a plea to the listening public. Please bring your leases or your phone bills and things of that nature and get your addresses updated. Do not wait to the first day of school, the week before school. You have to do it now, or you won't be guaranteed transportation on the first day of school. In addition, one of the things that I've also employed in my former superintendency was actually bus auditing, looking at how many students are actually riding the bus, and then saying, hey, do you want to opt out? So that we can become more efficient with that and actually save more dollars. We're in dire straits with monies, so we're going to have to make a lot of those concessions. And it's going to be absolutely necessary to help with our finances, because the reason why we're facing deficits from last year, which I know Mr. Famoso told you that we're already facing, is because your transportation budget exceeded almost, I want to say, $9 million or $10 million. And that is astronomical. And these are some ways, some quick wins that we definitely can get to help support our finances.
Thank you for the presentation. And I'm not sure who the best person to answer these questions would be, so I'll just put them out there. I was just looking at the contracts that are on the agenda for tonight, about $21.8 million in bus contracts that are up there. And I looked at one, for example, there's I think 16 student buses at a per bus cost. So the capacity is 16 students on those buses. Have we done an audit this year to figure out what kind of capacity we're at now on those 16 student buses?
For this past year,
Yeah.
it was about half. It was 7.7.
7.7. So
Yes.
there's definitely room to put some kids there. Now, two other questions. One is, of the classified students that I see on your presentation coming up next, how many of those students, about 1,600 students, how many of those students will be entitled to transportation?
So it would only, the students that actually need to be entitled to transportation are students with cognitive delays or physical delays or physical ailments.
Right.
I believe the practice currently is that if you have an individualized education plan, you then get transportation. And that's something that our special education department has been working diligently with this summer to start pulling those services away. Just because you have an IEP does not mean you cannot walk to school. We have some students with IEPs that play football every weekend, and they're running hundreds and hundreds of yards and things of that nature.
And they're taking the bus.
And they're taking the bus. We've done it as a form of convenience, but now this is where our dollars are going, and we have to pull back and only give it to those individuals that are that medically need it.
Got it. So we'll come to some pool of students once we go through this painful process that's going to be significantly lower than 1,600. A lot of times kids on their IEPs, there may be restrictions in terms of the size of the bus and the number of students who ride on the bus because of significant behavior problems. So if we factor that in, we're going to come in under 16. We're not going to have buses running with 16. So if it's now 7, maybe realistically somewhere in the middle, 10 kids. In some cases, there are going to be a few kids who are going to need their own transportation, but a very small number. Does that all seem reasonable?
No, that seems very reasonable.
Thank you.
And just to let FYI, so basic accounting principles, because we had a specific allocation for transportation, you can't really budget anything less than that 19 million. The goal would be that we spend significantly less than 19 million, and then next year we can bring down our allocated, our anticipated revenue, or excuse me, our anticipated budget for the transportation line. So those contracts are spending up to a certain amount, just an FYI, but we've already allocated that in the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Scott?
Excellent.
Thank you very much. And similar to Trustee Chris, I don't know who would answer this question, whether it be the superintendent or yourself, but we're talking about students who really need this bus transportation, correct? Those that are, physically, not able to get to school. So with that, and if we're doing corner stops, they're going to have to go on a corner. Your bus breaks down. Your bus doesn't show up. What's the communication for these parents who are now not at home but on a corner with their child so that they know the bus is going to be delayed? Is there that aspect being
So just to answer that, I will say that if students have certain cognitive disabilities or impairments or physical impairments, some of those students are still going to get door to door if they need it in their IEP. We're going to have to develop mechanisms for making sure that we notify families and things of that nature. I am not comfortable as of right now sharing. I don't even know the bus company. I know that in previous districts, the bus had an app that we actually purchased. Parents had access to the app. Me as a principal had access to the app. I knew when it was late. I was able to alert parents. We're going to have to figure that piece out.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Trustee Mitchell, Vice President Mitchell.
thank you. So first, thank you for the presentation and, of course, the energy. It was, you were trying to figure out who was talking just now? Sorry, I saw
I
you.
was.
I saw you.
Sorry,
It's all right. No, the energy was great, but I really appreciated the presentation. Last year we found ourselves in a very difficult situation where because timely decisions weren't made and because we weren't on top of things, we got hit with a huge contract increase that we had no choice but to partake in. It was terrible. So to see us trying to get ahead of it, and I remember being on transportation committee last school year, it was revealed then for the first time that we were running way too many routes, and that was inefficient. So, of course, that one meeting happened and then never again, so I never knew where we were, so this is good to see us here. I come from a time where all the kids in my neighborhood met at one corner. It wasn't like this, but even what you put up. It was a long yellow bus. We all met on the corner of Sanford Boulevard and 4th Ave. None of you know who that is. Probably you don't, but I don't mind. And we all got on that bus to come here to what is now STEAM School. So I think this is a great return to doing that and making sure that we're still saving taxpayer money. I think this is a great opportunity for us. The only question I have for Dr. Strickland is, you mentioned parents getting their addresses and things like that. What are the times when they need to do it? What are their venues and avenues to get it done? I was here at the last meeting, work session. There were parents who were in the back who did not speak English. They were just trying to find out where their student was supposed to go to school even still. So what are we going to have and roll out to parents so that they know how to get those addresses and information to the district?
Sure. I've asked our communications team to have a full-on rollout, a full court press on jumping ahead of registration. So even in this week's Jewel Box, you'll see that we're actually taking the time to show how you register your child for the Mount Vernon City School District. Families can come between 8 and 4 each school day, and I would say that we do need to continue with the outreach for our students that speak languages other than English. That is a deficit within the district. However, we do have Spanish-speaking typists that are available down to support any families. And, Spanish is our number 2 most commonly spoken language. And, we probably will have to extend hours or do what we need to do to ensure that we have these updated addresses. I do know calls are being made constantly. It's like a full court press, and people are working. And I'm walking around this building, and they are working.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also say one more thing. When you move to corner stops, believe it or not, the community actually steps up and it becomes more safe for students because you know that they're going to pick them up in that corner, and they start watching and making sure that bus comes. So you and I live in Mount Vernon now. Hey, I already see the amount of community care and love that is here, and these corner stops are just going to enhance that. It definitely will.
So I wanted to make a comment about the audit
Trustee
for
Kelly?
the transportation, which started last year. So, as you said, it was already started. It wasn't implemented. The other thing is we had the Google translation. What happened to that in the district? There was something that they were using last year for registration, and somebody can correct me if they want, but there was a way of them using the Google translator
Yep.
to assist parents in
Well,
communicating.
Well, I believe the website actually can change to different languages, whatever the language that the person speaks. That's one. We do have Spanish-speaking typists. I actually did see an actual interaction between the typist and a parent that was registering their child. One thing we have to do is be careful with Google Translate, as when you're talking about all Spanish isn't the same Spanish that our Spanish kids or our students that are Latino descent understand. So we have to be careful with it. We can use it to get by, but we do have some mechanisms in place to help support those families.
Are you using any of the parent coordinators who are also speak different languages?
So the parent coordinators, I actually met with them last week, and that is something that I want to talk with you all about and later on today. They have been immense help for many of our families, and they continue to be dedicated. They're not working this summer, and they're still helping. And that's something that we really do need to discuss, about how do we involve them more, if you will.
Trustee Peterson, look like.
So, quick question. That was an excellent presentation, Mr. Fiver. I love the energy. I loved it. I was going to ask you, is the Parent Resource Center open? No, because the parent liaisons are off for the summer, so the Resource Center isn't open.
That is correct. The Parent Resource Center is not open, and we're also possibly needing to relocate the Parent Resource Center, but that is in the works. This is a late development because of spacing and things of that nature. We know that STEAM is actually increasing in its enrollment. There is space at Mount Vernon High School. We do have a few open buildings that we could possibly think about, but that just became very new within probably a week.
Any other questions? I do have just a couple of things. I noticed that you indicated that in New York State, the standard is 2 miles as opposed to 1.5. I wanted to know whether or not there was an analysis done, whether or not if we did a 2 mile based on the New York State standard, and if that would provide an additional cost savings to the district. That's question one.
I did not do that. And in fact, I didn't even do the righteous full-on analysis with respect to the 1.5 because an unknown percentage of the students attending any given school, for me at the time, when I started not too long ago, were going to need door-to-door transportation. I don't care if they were 15 feet from the school. You know what I mean? They would need a bus. And so being uncertain as to how I could apply that 1.5, broadly in terms of the fiscal impact. And then the second part would be exactly what you're talking about, trying it the other way, 1 mile.
I was going to add, that was my second part.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's the kind of data that I'm hungry to discover and so that we can make informed decisions. That's all it is.
Right. Okay. And the other question is, you indicated that the transportation company previously prepared the routes.
True.
And you're proposing that your company does that.
Yes.
Yes. What would be our cost savings or cost impact, fiscal impact on that?
That's somewhat unknown. However, what I was demonstrating on the one slide with all the stupid numbers, was that there was like about a 25% kind of a reduction that I was seeing. You know, I did the ESY, which is the summer school, right?
Yes.
And there are 24 buses that have been serving, that are today serving our summer school contingent in district, by the way, and that they all happen to go to BTA, just one school this summer. And I did rerouting and came up with 16. Now, is that totally guaranteed doable by the bus company? Well, maybe that would need 17, maybe 18.
But there
I-
would be some type of savings.
There would be definitely no questions asked, and that's a big drop. You know, that's a 33%er.
Right.
And so I'm hungry for the opportunity to try to net some kind of results, you know, tangible stuff.
And my last question would be, would there be any impact on the crossing guards that would be allocated throughout the district? Would that busing impact them at all?
I have not explored that.
Yeah, so I personally, I'm glad you brought up that question. I don't have a comment for that. I do need to find out if we employ crossing guards or the city. So, if the police department. So I will, actually, I have my meeting with the mayor in the morning, and I will bring that to our agenda.
My thought would be if we could save money in any area, then maybe we could increase maybe somewhere else. Thank you. Any other questions on this topic? Okay. All right, we'll move to the next item.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. 2.2, the presentation on special education update by Michelle McKitty-Bromley. Dr. Strickland, would you like to expound on this presentation, please?
Trustees, because I thought it was appropriate to have an update on the transportation, I figured, you know, we need to really talk about the aspects of special education. These are our students that are primarily will be impacted in some way, shape, or form. And I've been very, very interested. Special education is a passion of mine, but I've been very interested in the profile of student for special education. And we have Director Michelle McKitty-Bromley here to provide an overview, and I must say that there has been a lot of work happening this summer to try to really get things going in motion so that we can improve our student outcomes. Thank you.
Good evening, President Dr. Marable, Vice President Warren Mitchell, trustees, members of the community, and members of the audience here. Good evening. Just giving a brief overview of special education, where we are, our current numbers and where we are. So our first slide is our school-age classified students. So for 2024, just a comparison between the 2 years, it was 1533, and currently poised this year is 1621, which is a percentage increase of 5%. Some of the increases can be attributed to students transferring in, as Dr. Wilkins spoke to in terms of LRE, and those things are possibly part of the reasoning for the increase in the number of classified students, and CPSC students transitioning into school age does impact the number and has caused some of the increase. As you may or may not know, there are 13 classifications put out by New York State, and our top 3 are speech and language impairment, learning disability, and autism. There has been an increase in the diagnoses of students coming with a diagnosis of autism, and also that are classified with autism, and that has increased over the years. Committee on Preschool Education, also known as CPSE. There has been, we've been talking about this for quite some time with the committee, Special Education Committee, on the increase of initial referrals for CPSE. I think that can also, there are a number of factors that are impacting that. COVID being one has been also an effect of those students who are now been in the COVID era. They are now coming along in our schools. They've had, limited exposure to conversation and those types of things in varying areas. There's also early intervention. There's also limited providers, so the students are not, our babies are not getting early intervention and those supports in speech and OT and PT. So they're coming to us and being referred at this preschool level, which is also impacting our increase in numbers. So we have 300 students that were classified 23-24, and 24-25 are 317, and we're still in the process of getting the numbers for 25-26. So the pandemic is really had an adverse effect, not only in Mount Vernon, but in many school districts are experiencing similar needs and increases, and also the lack of related service providers are also impacting students that are transitioning into school age because they are not getting the supports that they need at an early age to kind of mitigate some of the needs later on. Our students placed out of district OOD placements, 119, 115, and 5 are pending out of district explorations. Many of the students who are in out-of-district placements are students who have serious medical needs, some behavioral challenges that we're unable to manage within the school district due to the supports. But in order to reduce that, we would have to increase our resources within the school district to be able to support those students, outside of the medical students who have G-tubes and things like that, in terms of behavioral specialists within our school district to provide the supports that those students need would help reduce the out-of-district placement or the recommendation for out-of-district. So some of the examples of the schools are BOCES, PNW BOCES, Ferncliff. Some are they're all state approved, however, some are private. Some are private and other state schools, but we try to start with BOCES. Usually that's our first go-to before we proceed to the private schools. So currently, as Dr. Wilkins spoke to, our class ratios for K-8, we have quite a number of sections of 812 ratios, which are small, which creates a lot, the need for many more classes, more staffing, 1212s, 1511s, 5-to-1s. We have few ICT programs in 2 of our schools. Yes, there also needs to be an increase in less restrictive environment, which we are trying to move towards, having more an inclusive classroom and having students exposed to more of their general education peers. So that is an area of concern. There is a high number of restrictive settings, which we are going to work to reduce, all while giving students the access to the supports that they need and keeping those into consideration. So one-to-one teaching utilization, we had 107 one-to-ones or 2-to-1 TAs until 2024, 25, 25, 26, it has reduced. We put some measures into place to looking at the need for one-to-one assistance or 2-to-1 assistance in the school. However, we need to do a bit more to ensure that students are actually in need, because that is also restrictive. Having a one-to-one is limiting the students' independence. So we're going to do a little bit more monitoring, have a little bit more stringent criteria in looking at the actual need. We don't want to take away what students really need, but we want to make sure that students who are getting it really need it, and those who don't need that restrictive, that much support, that can be taken away and other supports can be put in place in terms of supplementary aids, modifications in the classroom, behavioral supports, and we'll work that way instead of giving a teaching assistant. So our goals for improvement, we have quite a bit of ways to go. We're making small improvements as we go along. We have quite a ways to go, but we'd like to definitely take a look at to reduce the total number of students mandates of one-to-one teaching assistants by, say, 10%. We're going to implement more training of our CSE chairpersons and our supervisors in order to ensure that students who need one-to-ones get one-to-ones, and those who really don't need one-to-ones do not. We want to expand our integrated co-teaching, which is ICT, which we've had many, many years ago. We'd like to see it come back to this way students can be educated with their general education peers and have more integration. And also a resource room, which is a pull-out program. And also, this is part of it, reducing suspensions. That is also with LRE. We're restricting students to just their home when they're out for suspensions. Our students with disabilities are disproportionately suspended at this time. So we're working with a targeted skills group, check and expand on at a later date, to improve reduce the number of suspensions for our SWDs. So a couple of things have to be in place, and they're being currently worked on to reduce those numbers. So Committee on Preschool and School Age referrals are increasing. This is pretty much of a summary. LRE remains a guiding principle. We just need to work on improving LRE overall to take a look at our numbers and ensure that students are being integrated with their general education peers as much as possible. We need to provide staff development to increase accountability measures to drive change, and focus on inclusive practices, and report progress on LRE goals periodically and much more frequently, and ensure that we are following the guidelines. I thank you.
Thank you so very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions? Comments? Vice President Mitchell?
Thank you, Ms. Bromley, for your presentation. Question: at the end of the last school year, there was a mass amount of terminations of TAs, I believe it was, and I believe the intentions were and it mentions the idea was that we were going to try to do things to rewrite all the IEPs that had one-to-ones to reduce them or something like that. I remember hearing this. This was a conversation that was had, and I want to understand, how are we going to meet the needs? We got rising level of students that are going to need IEPs and services. What is the game plan now that we've released so many of these folks last year, if you're aware of it? What is our game plan to meet the needs?
Well, we don't look at IEPs and just rewrite them and remove one-to-ones. That is not the way the process goes. We are taking a deeper look and looking at the need and looking through data. We need to improve that, actually, but we have looked at, through classroom observations, data, behavior tracking, and those sort of areas to determine whether or not a student actually requires a one-to-one, and the purposes, because there were some students who received a one-to-one who just had a one-to-one rolling up when they may have had needs, perhaps in kindergarten they needed it, but unfortunately have rolled up as through the years without the proper documentation. So we just wanted to ensure, and we are trying to put measures in place to ensure that students who actually need one-to-ones receive one-to-ones, and those who don't need that level of restriction don't have one.
Dr. McDonough?
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. And as my other question goes, I'm not sure whether this is better for you or for Dr. Strickland. I'm just looking at the trends over time. They're pretty scary. I looked at the New York State data 23-24, 1,390 classified students against an enrollment of 7,649, which is a classified percent of just over 18%. Last year, we had 1,533 classified students. Enrollment dropped, meaning the percentage goes up. And again, we're doing that in 25, 26. So this is a very, very serious problem that we need to address. I do think that the number of 812s in the district, and you mentioned this as well, it gives us an opportunity to move in-house and really take care of our students more thoroughly instead of sending kids to out-of-district placement, which is a huge cost. And now that we have the internal physical infrastructure that may be online for us, I think that's something we really ought to be considering seriously. I see a path of, and another thing that we talked about, and I think I recently sent you an email about this, the NYU program. So if you can imagine a trend where we're taking our kids in our 15-1, 15-2 classes, and we're looking for opportunities to strategically include them more systematically into the general education curriculum, that then we backfill. We're really pushing the envelope to get kids as included as possible. It's the right thing to do, and it's a good thing to do educationally. So obviously I'm looking at you because you're in the hot seat there, but this is a big long-term problem that's not going to go away, and it's going to get more difficult until we turn a corner, maybe a decade from now. So anyway, I just want to make that comment.
Dr. Strickland has a comment.
No, very salient points, Trustee McDonough. I would say, decreasing enrollment, but increasing services that are needed. It's a few different factors. One, our charter counterparts don't necessarily service self-contained classrooms. So that's one. That's an obvious one because those are generally more difficult to actually control. Also, this also tells us that we have somewhat of a tier 1 issue. We really have to make sure that we're teaching students to the standards and that they are not falling behind year after year after year, because then it starts showing up as a learning disability when in fact the student actually just needs to be caught up. And we continue to remediate a lot. That's just natural. Even when I was a teacher, I was ready to remediate. If he couldn't say this word, I'm really ready to write the word 400 times. And guess what? At the 399th time, he still can't say the word right. So we have to think about our practices as well. And that's where some of our curriculum instruction highlights are going to be. Also, making sure we have a robust MTSS system. As soon as I met with Miss McKitty Bromley, I asked, are the students that are being recommended for special education actually qualifying? And the answer is no. Meaning, there's not even enough data to substantiate whether or not students should be having services. And we have to make sure we're not saying, hey, write this letter. So, we got to make sure that we get the process going. Like, people are doing those things, unfortunately, because they want to get the kids services. Like, I always assume best intent. However, it's actually not helping, and it's causing these exorbitant amount of cost. And to an earlier point, Vice President Mitchell, you said something about the one-to-ones. Ms. McKitty Bromley is correct. I would say that sometimes, in some cases, even in previous districts, people give out transportation and TAs. You know what I mean? When students just honestly really need to be engaged in the classroom so that they don't run out, or they don't do the things that require another person to be in the room. In my tours, I was walking around schools. You wouldn't believe how many people I saw not doing much that we're just paying. So that was something where I said, yes, I need you to look at this. And we're going to clean it up.
Vice President Mitchell.
So, in light of what we're doing in this revamp, which is really what it is, if we have a lower manpower and we're trying to review and rewrite IEPs that need to be rewritten because they're inefficient, how are we addressing the droves of students that we've been hearing about for the past, 15 years that have not gotten their services? There are students that were owed compensatory services from when COVID was brand new in here that did not receive. I've asked for audits on it so many times, we won't talk. But I'm asking Dr. Strickland, I would like an audit so that we can get an idea. We keep hearing from parents in tears at that microphone, in the street, on email. My student didn't get their services. My kid got hurt in the street because, and they're blaming this district because we weren't servicing their student with their IEP mandated services. Yes. Principals are putting TAs substituting classrooms when they're not supposed to, even though they're told not to. How are we battling all of that? Is this also going to be part of the agenda? Making sure that the TA is with their student that they're supposed to be servicing, but not covering Miss So-and-so's class because she's out again?
Ms. McKitty Bromley just actually talked to me about that today. That's all about expectations. That is about pure expectations. Okay, I'm just going to be frank. Here it is. We need to have our building leaders own all their students. The students with disabilities are not just Miss McKitty Bromley students, or not just the city, like the downtown students. They need to own all of their students. And those things won't happen when the school leaders are holding all of their folks accountable to provide services for those students. But when you have this SPED department is not large. I'm going to tell you that for the amount of numbers that we have, it is not large. And the fact that we're, asking the director and some supervisors to do the massive amount of work to maintain those IEPs and making sure they're compliant is crazy. And again, Trustee McDonough said, look at our numbers. That's almost 20%. 20% of our population, and we have a small amount of population for students with for the individuals that touch our students with disabilities, but our gen ed population, teachers are way larger. So we're gonna have to do some different things, including getting students into least restrictive environments so that we're not in a space where you actually spend more money on self-contained classrooms.
Trustee Kelly?
I had a question. I know for years we've had a compliance report for special education. Where are we in basically in compliance with that? And how do you rectify the fact that you don't have a lot of service providers, which keeps Mount Vernon in trouble?
You're right. In terms of the compliance, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you with that. In terms of the Trustee Mitchell talked about the service and the compensatory services. You're right. That is an area of extreme challenge for us. With working with BOCES is our first go-to when it comes to teachers who leave or staff members who leave. We call BOCES, and everyone in Westchester is vying for the pool at the same pool in BOCES. So there's an issue there. When they're unable to, we do send out letters to families, and then we look for services outside our contracted agents. We're struggling with them as well. Many of them provide virtual services, which is not really sound or really good for many of our students. The in-person, it is extremely difficult finding in-person providers. They're not willing to go to the homes. That's why homebound becomes a challenge when it comes to in-person. We have many state complaints because of the virtual versus in-person. The in-person, I've been working tirelessly to find in-person, and it's extremely difficult to find those providers, not for a lack of effort, but it's the lack of finding the providers to provide the in-person service. The virtual, we're not so bad, but really that platform is really not beneficial to many of our students.
Any other questions, follow-up questions? I do have just two. Can you provide an explanation for the difference between a TA and a TA? Because we are using them interchangeably. One is a teacher assistant and one is a teacher aide, correct?
So we don't currently have aides in our district. Aides we have all of our teaching assistants are teaching assistants, or in some districts call them paraprofessionals, paras. So our teaching assistants they have credentials and they're able to provide support with academic instruction. Aides would be one if student just requires someone to help with toileting, those one-to-one medical needs, pushing a wheelchair, those kinds of things would be typically done by an aide because they are not participating in aiding or assisting with instruction, but we do not have aides in our district.
So, did someone else have a question?
No,
a comment? Uncle Dr. Strickland?
So yes, just being made aware of that, so you're asking credentialed individuals that could teach classes are doing things that we could hire different community members for to help those students, and it doesn't require that cost. So that's going to be another, I'm just finding all the low-hanging fruit in the budget, and it's helping the state monitor out too. But that is definitely something that would need to be addressed. Paraprofessionals are individuals that are very capable and at times know the students, themselves, that can help with toileting and supporting classrooms versus the assistants. Now I understand why they're being pulled to teach class. They do have the credential, and when you're strapped, you'd rather use that. But if we had teacher aides or paraprofessionals, we can get into a space where the TA being pulled is not a problem because I have an aide that can support.
Okay, one other question. Can you identify what the percentages are of each out-of-district placement?
I have to get back to you with the exact percentage of, you want,
For each location, especially if you start with BOCES.
okay, so you want to know
indicated-
the amount in both seasons?
Yes, the amount of-
Okay, I can get.
And,
get
and
that
I
for
know you indicated that you were trying to create spaces here in district that would support those students so that we wouldn't have to outsource the services. And I know you said you usually start with BOCES because that's the largest number of students that you may have. Would it, maybe I misunderstood you because I'm thinking maybe if we started with the services for the lowest number, then maybe we'd be able to build up or phase in to that.
Well, right, some of the programs like BOCES is our larger providers, like PNW BOCES, and we have, with the state.
They have different services, but it's just the largest provider.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Dr. Strickland?
Yes, just an FYI, there's a real challenge right now that BOCES throughout New York State are unable to service many of our students. We are going to eventually be forced to really figure out how we are going to service the students that we normally put out of district, and what are we going to do for them in-house to service them ourselves. So we're really going to start that process, and I know that Ms. McKinney-Brownlee did state that that is one of the goals, and that is something that we will definitely be adhering to and to decreasing.
Any follow-up questions before we move on? Hearing none, we will move on to Human Resources 3.1, Human Resources 1.3.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So
Dr. Strickland?
before we get to, you will notice the Human Resources tab looks a little different. We split up each of the different actions that need to be done in human resources. It's more clear. It's actually placed directly into the public content. You have things right before you, and we will continue to. There's still some things that I want to keep modifying, but this was a big win. And I do want to thank Ms. Jessica Graves for really starting the process.
Thank you. Something that we have long asked for, and so thank you so much, because I know we've asked. Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions on 3.1? Any comments? Hearing none. 3.2, certifieds. Hearing none. 3.3, certified for coaches and extracurricular appointments. Hearing none. 3.4. Hearing none. 3.5, resignations. You need to go back to Trustee Brown.
Good evening. As I was looking at this, I noticed that there were a lot of varying fees for, not fees, but
Rates of
salary.
pay?
Salary hours, yes. And I just wanted to know, why don't we just have like a base rate? Or is it because there are people who have been doing this for several years, and so they get these different step-ups? So I just wanted to be clear on that, because I did notice that there was varying. And then if you scroll down, there is a scoreboard keeper. It seems like all the scoreboard keepers basically have the same, but then you have one that's just pennies away. And so I like consistency, but if it is because of steps,
Yep.
then I get it.
Most of these are contractual.
Okay.
That your point exactly, contractual in nature, and the contract dictate the pay.
Okay, Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? 3.5, resignations. 3.6, approval of recalled employees. Any questions? Trustee Kelly?
I don't understand. Recalled, please?
Dr. Strickland will.
Yes, these are students, these are employees or teachers that are on the Pell list, that now we've had a certain amount of resignations, so we need to now start pulling off of those individuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? 3.7, approval of agreements and general releases. 3.8, amended because of the date. Any questions? Okay. 3.9, approval of probationary appointments, permanent appointments. Any questions? 3.10, classified permanent appointments. Any questions? 3.11, classified per diem substitutes. Dr. Strickland, there was a question regarding the rate of pay for,
Absolutely.
there are varying rates of pay again.
Right.
So Dr. Strickland, if you could please
So
expound on that.
Individuals that have the higher rate of pay are certified, but they're just not working every day in some way, shape, or form. What we are going to do is in the executive comment for the business meeting, make sure their certifications are in fact listed there for you. And then the individuals with the lower rate are individuals just with a bachelor's degree, and they are, just want to sub in our buildings.
Do we have individuals that do not have bachelor's degrees that are still substitutes?
We do.
Question?
Come up, Ms. Graves. Thank
And the
you.
rate of pay is
I don't wanna mess up.
is the same 175?
Good evening, President Marable, esteemed trustees, Dr. Strickland, his esteemed cabinet. There are substitute teachers that worked last year for certified and uncertified, worked at 175 a day. So there are some subs, as permitted by New York State in previous years, that are or were able to work 40 days for the year, but that's a cap. That was a cap on it. But since COVID, that was lifted. So we're trying to recruit teachers who are certified, who possibly have retired from the district or other districts to come back into Mount Vernon to work. That's why the 225 is listed, so they can provide consistent coverage, because we do have teachers who do go out on leave or FMLA, or they're just absent for whatever reason. So we're trying to get consistent coverage from people who have that subject matter expertise.
Okay, any other question was, do we have individuals without a bachelor's degree that are substitutes receiving the 175 pay?
Last year, yes, they did receive 175 a day, that they were uncertified. But most of them do have bachelor's degrees, and will provide that background information and executive content.
Thank you.
I have a question. It's kind
Yes,
of
sorry.
adjacent to what's going on.
Trustee Kelly?
Sorry, it's adjacent, it's really. Do we have a pipeline from any of the colleges for teachers? Have we developed that? I think I heard you talking about it.
We have.
Okay, that's
We
what I was
have.
asking.
Yeah, there is a partnership with the Long Island University, Hudson. We have had career fairs there. We do have quite a few candidates who are internship eligible found. They're 50% or more completed with their program. So we do look for students who are new. They have fresh perspectives. So we have that with LIU Hudson, Lehman College. We're looking to work with Monroe and Iona University, because Iona University does have its SLP program.
Okay, any other questions, follow-up?
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
3.12, human resources, resignations, terminations. Questions? 3.13, leaves of absence. Any questions, comments? 3.14, human resources, amended. That was for the date as well, to extend it to the end of the school year. 3.15, provisional appointments.
Question?
Question, Trustee Scott?
For the effective dates, is this continuous? Does it go 3 years? Is it a year from this date?
Dr. Strickland, should this be an as-read, I mean, not an
No,
as-read,
this-
but should this be corrected as well?
This is 3.15? No, this is a civil service appointment. So they're in the CSEA union.
Okay, so there's a whole process in terms of how they, well, you know, that's right.
Well,
You know that.
This this individual has actually passed the test, but we're just waiting for the results. Because we know food service is a concern for the district, I needed to get it through. So, we're just.
Yes. CSEA. Okay. 3.16, request for a leave of absence. Any questions? Okay. Hearing none on human resources, thank you so much, Ms. Graves. Thank you for remaining there in case we had other questions for human resources. Appreciate that. Shows your commitment.
Yes.
Section 4, curriculum and instruction. 4.1, approval of field trips for the school year. Dr. Strickland, would you mind
Yes.
explaining the
One of the-
rationale for all of them being collective here?
Absolutely. So I believe it's in it's in our policy that you have to vote on field trips that are over a certain amount of miles. What I have requested, and I actually requested it even before board leadership requested, is that we actually know what schools are going where, so that you're just not, voting on a blanket. And I want that information, and you will have that before the board meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions on 4.1? Hearing none, we'll move on to section 5, pupil personnel services. 5.1, approval of pupil personnel services memorandum. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to section 6, business office. Any questions on 6.1, approval of general funds transfer? Dr. Strickland, would you like to elaborate?
So, trustees, just to give you a little background on 6.1, our state monitor did not have a line to be compensated from. So what was done was funds were pulled from lines where we've have that are sort of vacant right now. So for instance, our assistant superintendent for business, we were able to reduce that line a little bit. We're in the process of filling human resources, so we were able to reduce that line a little bit. We reduced pupil personnel, as Assistant Superintendent White just started August 1st. So we were able to do that to actually create a line so that our state monitor can be compensated, and then we then are given money back from the state education department for our monitored services, but it may not be the full amount. Regardless, the line is going to be there.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Just
Vice President Mitchell?
yes, I love these. Thank you for the backup. Thank you. So, and this, I always have this question: when we see transfers from one portion of the budget going to other sections of the budget, does it demonstrate that when we budgeted on these lines that we're moving from, did we over budget? That generated savings, or this is just our ability to just reallocate the funds?
So it's a both and. It's our ability to reallocate the funds because I already was talking to one of the business officials today, and I said, but that still might not cover the amount. But as you go out through the year, you're consistently reconciling your numbers. In addition, what I had just expounded upon is we have savings already because you budget for 12 months. And if you don't have individuals in that position, you can actually, you're over budgeted, even though you're not really over budgeted. If we had someone, and you don't see superintendent's line because I started on July 1 and my salary is accounted for in the budget. Now, if I were to start in August, but not July, and you didn't have anyone for the month, the superintendent line might be on there. You know what I mean? So that's how you just work with these accounts, and we need to make sure that it's clear and it's in front of you, and that's why it's here.
The reason for the question really is, we have lines in the budget, and I've talked about this over the past a couple of years now. We have lines in the budget that we know very well we budgeted money for. We know we are not filling these positions, some of them, and where are we with really cracking down? The budget has been, it is what it is. Where are we at with determining where the lines are in this budget that money is sitting that's supposed to be allocated for certain things that we know we're not doing? And then when do we expand to the public what we've done with those funds? We have to, where are we at with how we're going to create a cadence for communicating to the public the dollars in this budget, like you just mentioned, where we have dollars allocated and we may or may not use them?
Yeah, so some of those budgeted positions happen to be in special education, which are mandated services. And we're forced to keep that position budgeted in the budget, but also forced to have funds to pay the consultants. So in a sense, because we don't have one, we're forced to have money in both. And that actually bloats your budget and causes a lot of issues, unfortunately. However, at the end of the year, you get the reconciliation that can happen, and that's how actually you get funds back to start building up a fund balance. And then you have to start looking at the vacancies. So at the end of the year, when we start planning for this budget, we're going to look at positions that are still vacant and say, do we need these positions or not? And if we don't need the positions, then we can reduce those positions and we figure out how to make do with what it is that we have, and because we've been doing it. And that's how you work this process out. And that's something that, I'm committed to. And lastly, for the listening public, you should have been getting treasurer's reports or financial reports at the business meeting. That is supposed to begin this month. And it would be just a standard, standard narrative that describes how the district's finances are, as well as the appropriations and the deductions and things of that nature that we've spent in that month.
I just want to say thank you to Dr. Strickland for really cracking down on the budgetary items, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was under the
Yes,
impression
Trustee
that
Kelly.
the treasurer was supposed to report to the board members, not just to a committee. So can you clarify that for me, please?
Yes, that's supposed to happen at the board business meeting.
Okay.
So you should be getting an unaudited report at each board business meeting. You move to accept it, and then that's it. And it's like your bank statement. You're not having those reports, and I believe that will help the community understand where the finances are, because we're going to be a little strapped again. And we really have to be transparent with where the money is going. And the more transparency we provide the community, the easier it is to really explain the needs that we have as a school district.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. 6.2, approval, the settlement of tax proceedings. Any questions? 6.3, extension of transportation contracts. Any questions? Trustee Kelly?
I just wanted to know, does this include the transportation audit? Is this, no.
No,
This is
so
just- Okay,
So basic accounting principles, you must appropriate the amount at least of what you spent last year for transportation. So these are up to amounts. So the goal would honestly be that we would come less than 8.6 million, less than 11 million, less than 715,000, or is that million? No, thousand, so on and so forth. So we have to appropriate the amounts that we spent.
previous.
One of the things that I've found is there has been there's
Under budgeted?
under budgeted. You've been under budgeting at times, which causes the issue in the end, or at the end of the year, which causes the further distress. So these are the up to amounts. We've tasked Mr. Fiber with, some humor and making sure that we really, get the transportation piece under control. And I'm almost certain that that'll end up in the the financial plan of the district.
Thank you. Trustee Scott?
Yes, I think I had sent in some questions regarding this particular one, where I was trying to figure out, based on Mr. Fiber's presentation, as well as what we have here, if the numbers would need to be as high as they were. And I think I got a response to that, so I'm glad about that. But the other one was around the funding
Yes.
piece of it. And I think here it speaks to maybe, I think, a 3% increase or something like that. So I was wondering if we're gonna be condensing and doing all this nice jazzy stuff that Mr. Fiber talked about, would we still need to be increasing versus staying flat?
So this increase actually happened across New York State.
Okay.
It happens everywhere, but this is basic inflation. Just like employees need raises every year because eggs cost $9.99 now instead of $7.99. Like people are they need to be more competitive with getting drivers. So they're also increasing in the amount of cost that they're charging districts. Some of this, much of transportation aid is reimbursable. However, because we're still doing so much, we're still taking a large hit from transportation. But the goal would be that we create the efficiencies so that next year those numbers can actually decrease.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? 6.4, approval of cheerleading to receive choreographic training.
I'm happy about that.
Questions? Trustee Kelly?
Can you explain why I thought they had a coach. Can you just tell me why they need a choreographer?
I can,
I can't, but I think we want them to be good. In a nutshell, but this one I was like, it's for the babies, so I don't care. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
They had one last year. When
Yeah,
they
so
went to the state.
that I
or
cannot
to
answer,
They
but-
went to finals. They went away to Florida.
So
Have
a
one?
major contribution to having a successful cheer program, like many other districts have, and what our district is really doing a great job at becoming. And the last 2 years they went to Florida, having a designated dance choreographer to teach them specific stunting skills, things like that they see and they use when they go to these competitions that will let them get into first place, that it's vital to have
So
a
we
lot of the
didn't-
districts.
So we did not have one before.
No, we did not.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, trustee Peter.
and,
Thank you for that explanation.
and I want to also add that it allows them to be credentialed so that when they attend these national events, that they already they will have the credentials so that they can participate. And that's really important for them to gain standing when they win particular levels of competition.
Thank you, Trustee Brown and Trustee Middleton.
And I do want to say, with the person who was named in our backup, prior to just kind of labeling it choreographer for those students, my nephew is in the same group, and that's Michael Middleton. And she was excellent with what she did, those stuff. She still did stuff without even getting paid, and when she did get paid, it just didn't have that title to it. So she was great at what she was doing when she could do it, took her time, and those kids went and they won competitions. And I follow Michael with her, and I know her, so, she did. But I think right now, I'll certainly give a check off to it. Yeah.
All right, Trustee Kelly.
Will she be the one who will be fulfilling this position?
Yes.
Your relation?
Or at the end of the year, which causes the further distress. So These are the up to amounts. We've tasked Mr. Fiber with, some humor and making sure that we really, get the transportation piece under control. And I'm almost certain that that'll end up in the the financial plan of the district.
Thank you. Trustee Scott?
Yes, I think I had sent in some questions regarding this particular one, where I was trying to figure out, based on Mr. Fiber's presentation, as well as what we have here, if the numbers would need to be as high as they were. And I think I got a response to that, so I'm glad about that. But the other one was around the funding
Yes.
piece of it. And I think here it speaks to maybe, I think, a 3% increase or something like that. So I was wondering if we're gonna be condensing and doing all this nice jazzy stuff that Mr. Fiber talked about, would we still need to be increasing versus staying flat?
So this increase actually happened across New York State.
Okay.
It happens everywhere, but this is basic inflation. Just like employees need raises every year because eggs cost $9.99 now instead of $7.99. Like people are they need to be more competitive with getting drivers. So they're also increasing in the amount of cost that they're charging districts. Some of this, much of transportation aid is reimbursable. However, because we're still doing so much, we're still taking a large hit from transportation. But the goal would be that we create the efficiencies so that next year those numbers can actually decrease.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Or at the end of the year, which causes the further distress. So these are the up to amounts. We've tasked Mr. Fiber with, some humor and making sure that we really, get the transportation piece under control. And I'm almost certain that that'll end up in the the financial plan of the district.
Thank you. Trustee Scott?
Yes, I think I had sent in some questions regarding this particular one, where I was trying to figure out, based on Mr. Fiber's presentation, as well as what we have here, if the numbers would need to be as high as they were. And I think I got a response to that, so I'm glad about that. But the other one was around the funding
Yes.
piece of it. And I think here it speaks to maybe, I think, a 3% increase or something like that. So I was wondering if we're gonna be condensing and doing all this nice jazzy stuff that Mr. Fiber talked about, would we still need to be increasing versus staying flat?
So this increase actually happened across New York State.
Okay.
It happens everywhere, but this is basic inflation. Just like employees need raises every year because eggs cost $9.99 now instead of $7.99. Like people are they need to be more competitive with getting drivers. So they're also increasing in the amount of cost that they're charging districts. Some of this, much of transportation aid is reimbursable. However, because we're still doing so much, we're still taking a large hit from transportation. But the goal would be that we create the efficiencies so that next year those numbers can actually decrease.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? 6.4, approval of cheerleading to receive choreographic training.
I'm happy about that.
Questions? Trustee Kelly?
Can you explain why I thought they had a coach. Can you just tell me why they need a choreographer?
I can,
I can't, but I think we want them to be good. In a nutshell, but this one I was like, it's for the babies, so I don't care. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
They had one last year. When
Yeah,
they
so
went to the state.
that I cannot
or to
answer,
They
but-
went to finals. They went away to Florida.
So
Have
a
one?
major contribution to having a successful cheer program, like many other districts have, and what our district is really doing a great job at becoming. And, you know, the last 2 years they went to Florida, having a designated dance choreographer to teach them specific stunting skills, things like that, that they see and they use when they go to these competitions that will let them get into first place, that it's vital to have
So
a
we
lot of the
didn't-
districts.
So we did not have one before.
No, we did not.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, trustee Peter.
And
Thank you for that explanation.
And I want to also add that it allows them to be credentialed so that when they attend these national events, that they already have they will have the credentials so that they can participate. And that's really important for them to gain standing when they win particular levels of competition.
Thank you, Trustee Brown and Trustee Middleton.
And I do want to say, with the person who was named in our backup, prior to just kind of labeling it choreographer for those students, my nephew is in the same group, and that's Michael Middleton. And she was excellent with what she did, those stuff. She still did stuff without even getting paid, and when she did get paid, it just didn't have that title to it. So she was great at what she was doing when she could do it, took her time, and those kids went and they won competitions. And I followed Michael with her, and I know her, so, you know, she did. But I think right now I'll certainly give a check off to it. Yeah.
All right, Trustee Kelly.
Will she be the one who will be fulfilling this position?
Yes.
Your relation to you?
No, she's not. She's
Oh.
not, but I'm saying my
Oh, that's what I'm trying to, I'm sorry, I got a little confused. No, thank you for the explanation, but I got
She's
a
an
little
instructor
confused there.
for
Yeah,
your nephew.
okay.
Okay.
And she's good, and, okay, he was in it. Okay, gotcha.
Basically, the team was she did a great job.
Okay.
And everything.
Okay, thank you for the explanation,
Thank you.
trustees, thank you. No, clarifies my question, thank you.
I mean, I don't mean any harm, but I'm a very competitive individual, and anything that gives our children a leg up, I'm okay. I'm all for it. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we would like to ask the board for authorization to send these items for consent agenda. So I'd like to receive a motion. Receive the first and a second. So may I have a vote?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to some resolutions for this evening.
Okay, so I would just, we know that this is a working session, and typically for our working session, we do not vote on resolutions. However, because this is new to all of us, we are working through all of the kinks and all of the challenges, trying to make sure that we get to a smooth road. So in order to do that, we are providing some grace, or we would like to provide some grace. So at this particular time, I would like for Dr. Strickland to explain why we have these resolutions, and after that, I would ask for a vote from the board so that we could, if possible, to suspend the rules for this work session so that we can vote on these resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Marable. So just as President Marable said, the goal is not to be voting on resolutions at the board, at the work session. However, we are a school district, and there's things that have happened. There's new deadlines that are going to have to be put out there. And there's, simple things that have been lost in transition, things of that nature. So these resolutions, one of them, 8.1, is for the actual grading of the summer school test and proctoring. That is something that we must do. And unfortunately, that was not placed beforehand. However, myself and the cabinet were working on a district-wide calendar so that you would receive these things in the July meeting for August in the future. The next one, 8.2, was the security. The security. Yes, resolution that had numbers that were all over. Yes, we tabled. That has since been corrected. And then finally, the third one, we actually, sorry.
You can explain.
For the third one, 8.3, we had pulled individuals that were going to be transitioning into the civil service union, and we missed one of those tabs, unfortunately, which was tab 10.8.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any other questions of Dr. Strickland? Questions on we'll get to each resolutions individually, but if I wanted to know if you had any questions of Dr. Strickland, why these are on the resolution, on the agenda. Okay. So, Trustee Kelly?
The last one, what, they're being moved to the civil service? So.
That may be a executive session
Okay,
conversation?
then I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Then we're voting on it before I have my answer?
What I will share with you is that last time we pulled, civil service has specific rules. This particular position should not be under contract, it should be under civil service, and therefore we have to rescind it, we have to pull it back, and so that we can present it in the proper fashion.
So this was always a civil service
It
position?
it should have been.
It should have been.
It
but
should
was
have been,
not.
but it was not.
Contractual.
Correct, and it should have been.
Okay.
And so we missed pulling, there were several that we pulled because we realized it. This one we missed,
Okay, thank you.
okay? I don't think we were aware that there was a title for it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so if we can have a motion to suspend the rules for this work session in order to vote on these resolutions? May I have a vote?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Suspended rules.
Okay, Resolution 8.1, authorization to hire staff for district-wide regent testing and scoring from August 9th to the 12th, 2025. Hold on, need a motion. I got you. You need them? That's okay. Any motion? Okay, you got that? Okay.
Questions, concerns, discussions?
Question.
Trustee Peterson?
Thank you, President Marable. So I noticed that a lot of, when I see teachers who are covering certain things, I see that a lot of times it's the same, it's kind of like frequent flyers. And I just wanted to make sure that we are offering, spreading it across, that all teachers are able to apply, and we're looking at, that everyone's getting a fair chance to work these extra hours.
That is something that's being monitored, definitely. At times, some people just don't want to work, and some people want to work everything. And this, again, not unique to Mount Vernon. Definitely, I mean, even me as a principal, same people want to work, and I'm sure we're making it equitable.
Okay, Trustee Scott?
The only question I have is on the listing, I see the security sub doesn't have any information next to it.
Are you on 8.1 or 8.2?
No, I'm on 8.1.
Okay,
It's security sub, Jennifer.
Yep.
I won't say the name, but
yes.
Yep. So because the security sub, in the event that one of the security guards aren't there, then that individual can actually take the hours, to work that day, and we don't have to put this back through tab.
Trustee Brown?
So I was looking through the list of names, and I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss, because I noticed that, do all proctors do the same thing? There's no tier in a proctor. And if you look at the last two names on the proctor, they are, dollars away from all the other proctors. And I would assume that it doesn't, it just,
Dr. Strickland?
Yep, this is also contractual.
okay.
Also contractual.
I just didn't know if it was, a clerical error.
It's possible those may be aides, or assistants, TAs rather.
I have a
Vice President Mitchell?
question. Just, do these names arrive here because the principals for their buildings submit them? Because, and this, doesn't make no mistake, this is one of those type of things where favoritism is a part of the game, and the principal makes the decision, and so if you're not my favorite this year, this month, then you're not going to get to do this. How is this list compiled?
Well, our principals are tasked with making sure that their programs and that their duties are being filled. So definitely want to assume best intent with all of our school leaders. I myself had to approve this posting. I went in the system and I clicked approved. So I know that these individuals were individuals that actually applied, and then there is a process or what have you. Sometimes you don't have enough people. Sometimes you have too many people. If you have too many people, then you have to do a process. But we want to assume best intent in our school leaders, that we want to make sure we're spreading the love and we're giving everyone the opportunity to make a little extra funds in the summer. But, I just wanted to lead from that lens.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Have a
Thank
mo-
you. 8.2, authorization to hire security monitors for district-wide summer programs. May we have a motion?
Questions, concerns, discussions?
Question?
Question two.
Trustee McDonough?
Hi.
Thank you for waiting for me to call your name. I like to give you, so people know who's talking.
Thank you. So just first, I just want to make sure this is budgeted, I assume. This is $100,000 is in the budget for this?
So these are various budgets. So some of it is the youth bureau paying for it. If you see in red.